We have lived as if in a trance. We have lived as people in fear. And now, our rights and our freedoms in peril, we slowly awaken to learn that we have been afraid of the wrong thing. Therefore, tonight have we truly become the inheritors of our American legacy. For on this first full day that the Military Commissions Act is in force, we now face what our ancestors faced at other times of exaggerated crisis and melodramatic fear-mongering, a government more dangerous to our liberty than is the enemy it claims to protect us from. We have been here before, and we have been here before, led here by men better and wiser and nobler than George W. Bush.
The youth of America and many Americans consider you a bright beacon of hope for the future, and you are a civil rights advocate. But could you please explain to me why you voted to reauthorize the Patriot Act, which is the worst attack on civil rights of Americans? And we do now know that George Bush's fabricated reasons to go to war were fabricated, so we do not need the Patriot Act to keep us safe.
Let me tell you what. First, it's not actually true that the Patriot Act was the worst. Most of the problems that we have had in civil liberties were not done through the Patriot Act. They were done through executive order by George W. Bush. And that's why the first thing I will do when I am president is call in my Attorney General and have he or she review every executive order to determine which of those have undermined civil liberties, which are unconstitutional, and I will reverse them with a stroke of a pen. And so that is actually how, that's actually how the worst abuses have occurred. I take the Constitution very seriously. The biggest problems that we're facing right now have to do with George Bush trying to bring more and more power into the executive branch and not go through Congress at all. And that's what I intend to reverse when I'm President of the United States of America. All right.
President Barack Obama has signed a one-year extension of several provisions in the nation's main counterterrorism law, the Patriot Act. They would have expired on Sunday. They authorized court-approved roving wiretaps to permit phone surveillance. They also allowed the seizure of records and property in anti-terror investigations.
But we begin tonight with a tale of two speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. Just for context here, in the United Kingdom, where there isn't even a Bill of Rights, there's been a major debate about whether people can be held in preventive detention. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair wanted 3 months to be the outer limit for how long anyone could be held. There was a big political fight about it. Parliament ended up limiting that power to 28 days. 28 days is still the longest period of preventive detention that's allowed under law in any comparable democracy anywhere in the world. How long would President Obama's proposed preventive indefinite detention last? Well, he's not saying yet, but here's how he defines the threat that he says makes indefinite detention necessary.
Right now, in distant training camps and in crowded cities, there are people plotting to take American lives. That will be the case a year from now, 5 years from now, and in all probability 10 years from now.
10 years from now. So you could get arrested today and locked up without a trial, without being convicted, without being sentenced for, say, 10 years until the threat of your future criminal behavior passes. Prolonged detention, he's calling it. This was a beautiful speech from President Obama today with patriotic, moving, even poetic language about the rule of law and the Constitution, and one of the most radical proposals for defying the Constitution that we have ever heard made to the American people.
And now we are told that assassination of foreigners as well as American citizens is legitimate and necessary to provide security for our people. It is my firm opinion that nothing could be further from the truth. It's time for Congress and the American people to wake up to the realities of the dangers we face. We must remember as members of Congress that we have taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. It should not be that difficult to distinguish the difference between the danger posed by the underwear bomber and the danger posed by a government that endorses secret prisons, torture, and assassinating American citizens. And I yield back the balance of my time.
I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank.
The American people didn't go in. A few people advising this administration, a small number of people called the neoconservatives, hijacked our foreign policy. They're responsible, not the American people. They're not responsible. We shouldn't punish them.
Congressman, we are one nation. We can't be divided. We have to be one nation under God. That means if we make a mistake, we make it as a single country, the United States of America, not the divided States of America.
When we make a mistake, it is the obligation of the people through their representatives to correct the mistake, not to continue the mistake.
And that's what we do on the floor of the Senate?
No, we've dug a hole for ourselves and we've dug a hole for our party. We're losing elections and we're going down next year if we don't change it. And it has all to do with foreign policy, and we have to wake up to this fact.
Even if we lose elections, we should not lose our honor, and that is more important than the Republican Party.
We have lost over 5,000 Americans killed in Afghanistan. We've lost over 5,000 Americans over there in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and plus the civilians killed. How many more do you want to lose? How long are you going to be there? How long? What do we have to pay to save face? That's all we're doing is saving face. It's time we came home.
Gentlemen, thank you. Wendell.
I've now come to feel, you know, Stephen Carter in his new book, Violence of Peace, which is actually really interesting, talks about how Obama is really prosecuting these wars with more ferocity at this point than George W. Bush. That he's actually, you know, he's done the surge in Afghanistan. He has really shown himself to be something of a hawk when it comes to the war.
How depressing, yeah. Ron Paul. It seems that there is no difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to these wars. In fact, Barack Obama's tripled the number of troops in Afghanistan, and Republicans are pushing him to commit even longer. We've been there for over a decade.
Congressman Paul, we are spending $2.8 billion a week. Isn't that a place where we can see some immediate spending cuts instead of continuing to pursue what is clearly an unnecessary and unwinnable war?
Well, you and I may agree on it, but, you know, the progressives that are on the Democratic side and the conservatives on the Republican side have no intention of cutting any of that. I mean, they're not serious about cutting. I think I can make the case that we should bring our troops home, change our foreign policy, quit these ridiculous wars. We would be safer and richer for it. And in a transition, and I talked about this in the campaign, in a transition, because we have so many people so dependent on government, say the elderly. Right. You know, my ideal society isn't going to arrive in a week or two or in a 4-year presidency. Right. So my argument is that you can do that. You can take care of people, but never with a deficit, never by expanding the spending. It would be by cutting spending, and I would cut money overseas. I'd cut hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of this maintaining our empire around the world. Bring that money home, take care of the people who are dependent, and then work for the day where we can trust freedom once again, understand how free markets actually work.
I mean, all empires end badly for economic reasons because you can't afford them. If you look out through all of history, eventually they collapse. And you may be militarily powerful, but eventually you undermine the finances. The Soviet system collapsed. I was drafted during the Cuban crisis. We thought we were going to have a hot war. We never did. The Soviet system collapsed. because they couldn't afford it and their system was non-viable. Our system isn't viable either. We can't have a current account deficit of $800 billion a year. We can't owe foreigners $2.7 trillion and think we can keep paying them interest and keep borrowing money. They'll quit doing it. And that's why the dollar's weakening. And that's why we face a major crisis. And all I want to do is stop it from collapsing. And that means you have to change foreign policy. You have to save a lot of money if we want to tide some people over here. The only way we can take care of the people who are sick and dependent on government programs is by cutting somewhere else. And I say we have to cut our empire back in order to save our economy.
Would we be better at getting rid of Social Security?
Pardon me?
Would we be better getting rid of it?
No. These circumstances, I have bills in the Congress that would make it solvent, that you couldn't spend a penny of it, and I would take care of these people who are totally dependent by stopping the money being spent overseas, and I would have a transition in order to do that.
Overseas, that adventurism,
yeah, that's the only place.
That's
the only place that you can say.
Let me ask you.
Get the federal government out of medical payments altogether.
Eventually that is the case, but certainly in the transition period, that's not my goal, is to attack those programs. Matter of fact, I'm the only one that offers a way to pay for it. Right now, they just add on. The Republicans gives us prescription drug programs, and the Democrats gives you S-chip, and they don't have any money. They're going to print that money. That's all they're going to do. They can't even tax anymore because we're taxed to the hill. So they're going to print the money, create the inflation, and cause the cost of medicine to go up. We're on a foolhardy course that has to be changed.
Is not disloyalty to remind the president that he was elected by people to whom he had given a clear outline of what he would do for them. And if he does not steer out of the skid of what he is doing to them, he will not only not be reelected, he may not even be renominated. It is not disloyalty to remind him that we are not bound to an individual. We are bound to principles.
You appear to have consistent, principled integrity. Americans don't usually go for that.
When policy has what the CIA calls blowback, it has unintended consequences. You can go back to 1953 when we put the Shah into power, or us supporting Osama bin Laden and radicalizing the Islamics to go after the Soviets, and that comes back as blowback. Peace is a powerful message, especially after the war has been going on and the people wake up and realize how many people die and how much it costs. Logic tells us that we can make a better world in a much easier way than causing wars.
You just never heard this logic from someone who's actually going to run the country.
Thomas Jefferson lives. He's Ron Paul. If Jefferson lived today, he would rail about the Federal Reserve. He wouldn't like that. He'd be appalled by our ongoing wars, our nonstop wars. Jefferson said, the less you use power, the greater it becomes. Compared to Ron Paul said, you sacrifice liberty for security, you lose both. So
Right now, you need a Republican that will challenge Obama on the war issue and on civil liberties. Here's an administration that has endorsed assassinations. He still endorses secret prisons. He loves the Patriot Act, but you need a Republican that truly believes in individual liberty, and I think they can provide a real challenge to Obama.
All right.
You know, a survey that just came out today is of particular interest to our first guest here on Happy Hour. This is the survey. It was a telephone survey of the 2012 presidential election. And that survey found that President Obama has 42% of voter support and Representative Ron Paul, 41%. Wow. Ron Paul.
I wish you'd run again, and I wish the American public would start listening to you, but I guess, you know.
There are 535 people on Capitol Hill whose job it is to write the laws that govern all of us, and he is one of them. There are 535 people on Capitol Hill whose job it is to preserve the Constitution, and he is one of them. There are 535 people whose job it is to preserve our liberties, and he is one of them. But in his heart and in his head, in his character and in his intellect, in what he has done and in what he will become. The Thomas Jefferson of our day, Ron Paul, is one of us.